It's day 3 of the 2024 Summer Olympics, and Simone Biles is showing up and showing out. The USA men's basketball team is off to a hot start, while the USA men's gymnastics team are trying to qualify for the men's final for the gold medal. The Cubs made a couple of moves over the weekend at the trade deadline, while the White Sox clock is ticking. Plus, we'll have news on NFL, latest on the NFL contracts, and I have another hot list for you from the Pigskin. And time permitting, we'll have Old School TV Monday. That and a whole lot more as Second City Sports, the Monday edition, the last one for the month of July, starts right now. Welcome to another fun-filled Monday edition of Second City Sports, the last one for the month of July. We're live in the living color on Sports Soul Chicago, along with Miss Lakina McGee, which is she. I am Cindy Brown. Hey, that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow my Lakina McGee on the Twitter, X, the IG.
Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast. We are located at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're ready, please give War Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very different opinions. If you have any different opinion during our 2-hour extravaganza, we call it a Sports Talk Radio Show. You can always hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments to the comment section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you. But if you decide to troll and or do something silly, dumb, or stupid, I've given Lakina full powers to give you fools to be a lame, be a boot.
Bye-bye.
But before we begin, we must remind you can catch Sports Zone Chicago live in the living color right now on Roku TV. That's right. So celebrate with the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV. If you already have a Roku television, just tap on that sports folder and download that Sports Zone Chicago app. If you don't have a Roku television, but you have some handheld devices laying around, iPhone, iPad, iTouch, your Chromebook, your PC, or your Android, just head up to Google Play Store and download that Roku TV app and excite Sports Zone Chicago through that avenue. So no more excuses. Celebrate with the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Live and on demand.
Anytime, anywhere.
And you know we will provide.
And sorry for the late start, folks. I had a little bit of a technical difficulties, but we should be good to go here. Last Monday of July for our show here on Second City Sports. Of course, we'll talk Olympic updates. And, of course, our buddy Jordan Lazowski from Sox on 35th talks about the trade deadline and Sox. Bueller, where are the moves the Sox are supposed to be making? They're supposed to be active these next couple of days. We know the Cubs have been doing that too. We'll talk about that. And of course, the rest of the MLB. Big contracts for a couple of young quarterbacks in the NFL. Old School TV Monday and a whole lot more. But first, Sid, let's start with Olympics. I'm not even going to try to do the whole thing, but
we don't want to get dinged either.
No, exactly. So
this is one of the few times I wish we were back in studio. We wouldn't be having this problem, but I digress.
Exactly. So, but still, the Rays have been very solid for NBC and their family of networks. Peacock, seeing some solid views themselves. We'll start with Simone Biles. Got a little banged up with a lower calf injury, but even still, she had some of the best floor exercise routines and She had evolved and uneven bars, and she, looks like the old Simone Biles that we saw, in 2016 when she won all around there. Suni Lee, we know some of the various issues she went through to get back. She looked really good. Jordan Childs just missed getting the all around because of the only two gymnasts per country rule. But led by the last two all around champions, first time that's ever happened that those two are going to be not face each other like later this week. But so what do you think about the gymnastics? I mean, I'll get to we'll have with France in just a second. But what do you think about the U.S. and the women's gymnastics team in night one?
I'm proud of those young ladies all around. All around, they represent the USA well. They did a tremendous job. In regards to Simone Biles, I'm just like everybody else. I am amazed at what this young lady has done. She is 26. That's a bunch of, with all due respect, BS. But if that's how 26-year-olds should perform in gymnastics. I like to sign up for that. But I'm starting to run out of superlatives for Miss Biles. She is the GOAT, the greatest female gymnast of all time. And I don't know if you mentioned about the injuries, Lakin. I don't know if you saw her calf, her right calf being pulled out up close. It looked disgusting, but she fought through it. I know her left ankle was wrapped up, and she injured it during warm-ups. But we ask a lot from our athletes, whether it's high school, college, or the professionals. But we have to give these Olympic athletes too a lot of credit. They had to go through just as much as our professional collegiate athletes, and they need to be commended for it. And Simone Biles just put it behind her, focused on her job, and she was tremendous last night.
Just an amazing feat. The fact that she still did what she did, she stuck the landings, and still, the U.S. is still, I think, a good like almost 6 points ahead of the second place team. I think it was no, it wasn't Italy. It was yeah, I think it was but it was Brazil, I think, and they were kind of like very very they got what they needed. And so look, I think everybody did their thing. So I think that's all you can ask for. The team final will be tomorrow. It'll be on prime time, of course, on NBC. Of course, you can stream it, on Peacock, and I think Channel 5 is also going to have it as well. So if you want to wait, if you don't want to wait till prime time, you can watch it then. But really solid showing by the women there. Of course, you got to think Brazil's gonna with Rebecca Andrade. She's is just as decorated as Simone is, and we'll see if Brazil, China's up there as well. France, unfortunately, they just couldn't get it going because they actually put the money in to invest in those facilities so that the women would have a chance to win. Unfortunately, just too many mistakes by their gymnasts. That's why they couldn't make the top eight in the team final last night. So yeah, I mean, but still, I think the U.S. is a team to beat. So we'll see if Simone, Suni, and the rest of the ladies there for the United States can bring it home.
It call me crazy, Lakina, and this is, I believe, the second time I watched Soon Lee perform, and she did a heck of a job last night. But do you think her and Jordan Lyles is it safe to say, well, both those young ladies are the next faces of USA women's gymnastics?
Well, they're both kind of like right there. They're in their early 20, going into their early 20s. So this is actually their second Olympics. So we'll see what happens. I mean, we know Jordan Childs. If you've seen her, she brings the energy, and you can
Hmm.
see this. She was still, she was still a little, not she wasn't too upset that, of course, it's the only two country per rule, two per country per rule that. That's why you couldn't get all three. So yeah, it's just unfortunate she just missed it because it was
Hmm.
Simone, Suni, and her like in the top three, if you go by the whole thing. So, but yeah, unfortunately, the two gymnasts for country rule, unfortunately. But well, we'll see what happens with the women. Now the men are doing it right now. So, of course, I don't have any updates because I want to wait till prime time. But it looks like they're off to a great start in the team final. This will be the
Yeah,
first
they
time
just
that.
pulled into we watch. This is live, folks. If you're watching us live on YouTube, they're in rotation 5, and they just pulled into second place. China's number 1. Ukraine is currently number 3.
Yeah, so well, you could have said warning first if you want to watch it tonight. So hopefully the U.S. can hang on because this
Spoiler
would be
alert! Like I said, if you're
yeah,
watching us live right now.
yeah, exactly. So but yeah, this would be their first. If they should they hang on, this would be their first medal, any kind of team medal of any kind since '08. So they might be. I think they're a little bit further behind China, so there might be a little bit much to try to. Try to win gold because it'd been 40 years since the U.S. men, I should say, won gold in the team event. But the fact they even win any kind of medal, so we'll see. I know Brody Malone had a tough a tough prelims on Friday, but it looks like he's doing well. Of course, Frederick Richard, he's been doing great as well.
Yeah, he kicked
Uh,
butt earlier today.
yeah, Paul Judah, who's from Deerfield, by the way, he's been doing
Mm-hmm.
well as well from what I've seen. So yeah, so hopefully the men can bring home a medal. Gold might be because China's pretty good, but if they can just hang on to win a medal, I think that would be a big accomplishment. And they got they also got all around too. I think Fred Paul got a good chance there. Now, do you want to wait till we take a break, or do you want to do the with LeBron and KD and the gang in
Yeah,
basketball?
we could do the LeBron and them right now. The USA men's basketball team started their journey yesterday in their quest for another gold medal. The they beat Serbia 110-84. Of course, Nikolai Jokic did his thing for Serbia with 21 points. On the flip side, for the United States, LeBron James led the way. Of course, Steph Curry was 3 of 7 shooting from downtown. Watching that game yesterday, Lakina, of course, US got out to a slow start. Of course, Serbia took advantage of that. But from the second quarter on, I know that Joel Embiid and Anthony Davis, both our big men, got in foul trouble. But once Anthony Edwards got into the game and Kevin Durant got into the game, it was a perfect 5 from 5 from downtown. When both those guys got in the game, the U.S. offensively turned it around. Of course, in that second half, after I don't know what Steve Kerr, the head coach, said to them at halftime, but after halftime, the U.S. came out on fire defensively, clamped down, and they cruised off into a 26-point win.
Yeah, it was a very it was a very business like performance after that little slow start. I think Serbia was up 9 early on, and when
Hmm.
Durant came in, of course, remember he didn't play the whole exhibition season. Nursing that he had his own calf injury to nurse, and like you said, he was near perfect from the field and 5 for 5 from three. So that
Hmm.
23 points, not from the bench, not too bad. I know that Anthony Edwards made some big defensive stuff. So did Derek White.
Hmm.
That's one of the reasons why he was brought on, for that that lockdown on defense. And just a really solid showing around. I mean, Steph, did his thing, made his downtown threes. Drew Holiday made a couple of big shots as well to kind of keep him at the Serbia at bay because they did try to kind of get into that, but the U.S. it was just too much United States. I want to get to real quick about Jason Tatum. People were making a big deal about, oh my God, he didn't play. Like, oh my God, like how terrible. Like, well, look, guys, Tyrese Halliburton didn't play either, and this is what happens. This is the flip side of having so many great talented players because there are going to be some guys that just aren't going to play. So that's not nothing against him. It's just that that's just how it goes sometimes. And Coach Curry even said that they're playing with different combinations. So they do play South Sudan, who upset Puerto Rico. They always beat the United States the weekend, but not this past week, but last weekend.
Hmm.
I think that the U.S. will be ready for them, and of course, I'm sure we'll see Tatum. Of course, he was a big part of the reason why U.S. was able to hang on.
And also, too, Lakina, the USA shot the ball very well for the whole game. And like I said, from the second period on, they were almost unstoppable, both offensively and defensively. The U.S. shot the ball overall at a 62% clip, 56% from three. Of course, Kevin Durant's 5 for 5 really helped that out. But I want to focus in on these couple of statistics, Lakina, from yesterday's game. On the defensive end, rebounding, plus 11 for the United States, 33 to 22 in the defensive rebounding category. The assists 24-18 USA, and the blocks 3, Serbia 0. And the turnovers, of course, USA must take care of the basketball. They got away with it yesterday with 17, but they did force a lot of turnovers on the other end, and that's how they got back in the game yesterday.
Yeah, that those defensive, kind of like vibes there for the U.S. So I think that's really going to have to do that because we know South Sudan is very quick. So
Hmm.
maybe they can kind of like try to do that, make some adjustments there. Probably, they probably won't be taken off guard like they were on Saturday, like the last Saturday. And it'll be interesting to see if the U.S. can kind of like try to get it going. That South Sudan, they're gonna they feel insulted because I guess they before the game against Puerto Rico, they played the wrong anthem. So I guess they were kind of took
Oops.
offense to that. So maybe that's why. But yeah, I think the U.S. look, this isn't the dream team. I know people want to make this, this team like the dream team, but yeah, I mean, look, they only had to face like a handful of NBA guys. You got a lot of NBA guys on in these countries now. So I think people need to kind of just stop it with the whole like you dream team comparison. So we'll see what happens there. And what do you think about D Wade in the booth with Noah Eagle? They actually sounded really good together. I know some people were like, "Oh, he said we too many times." I mean, look, he played like 3 of these Olympics teams, so it's not like. Of course, I've seen other people have done it, so it's not like he's the only one that's done it. So I think people need to kind of give him a break on that. But what do you think about D Wade in the booth?
I thought he and Noah Eagle, I know you interviewed him a couple of years ago. They both sounded fine. And shout out to Miss Kareth Burkett as well, the sideline reporter. She does great work for NBC Sports Bay Area covering the Warriors. But I thought both Noah and D Wade both sounded good together. Will they be the second team of the NBA on NBC next fall? We'll find out in short order. But I thought they sounded well yesterday, and we'll get into the rest of the basketball action later on in the program. I had some questions for you as regards to what I saw in the other games. But as far as the USA is concerned, the USA Serbia game was concerned, very impressed by the US. They still had to clean it up on the turnovers, but all in all, I was very impressed. And for a reminder, their next game, I'm talking about the USA men's basketball team, is at 1:45 on Wednesday on USA against team Sudan, South Sudan.
South Sudan, yeah, I'm about to say South Sudan. Yeah, don't call them the other Sudan because they'll get very they won't be very happy about that. So yeah, you can check, and that'll be on USA, so you guys can check that out as well. And also, it'll be streamed on Peacock as well. So if you're not by a television or what have you, you can get it in the background there. Now going to the women's side for a second, the USA women are about to play, and interesting. This is like going to be the 8th straight time that. They're going for their night. I guess their 8th straight gold medal because they have not lost since '92. When that was the first year of women playing basketball in the Olympics. They play Japan in about an hour from now, and it'll be interesting to see. I know people still want to do the whole should Caitlin Carr have been on the team and blah blah.
I don't
want
to hear no more. No, stop.
It's annoying at this point. Look, even I think she's just chilling right now. And it's just kind of stupid at this point that people want to kind of like try to make this into a big federal case out of it. But look, if you're the United States, I think you just got to concentrate and just go through pool play. You got Japan, Serbia, and Australia, and France in your pool play. Because the way it's set up is there's a lot less teams there, and than it is on the men's side. So. You basically are going to be playing each other twice. So they got a nice deep squad. I'm talking about the United States. You got Diana Taurasi, who's the elder stateswoman, I guess, if you will. If this will be her fourth, I think her 4th gold. Should they win? And I think people were wondering, because I know we had Herb Lawrence on from CHGO, and he said, well, maybe they should do the way they do it. But here's the thing, though, on the women's side, there aren't that many women internationally playing in the WNBA. They got their own league, so it's sort of hard to kind of that's just the reason why US is so dominant is because of how it's structured and everything else. So for people, you can't really compare it to men and women because I really don't like how people do that. So that's probably why the US women dominated so well these last 30 years.
Shout out to head coach Don Staley. I don't know if you saw her on the halftime show yesterday with the USA men's basketball game with Serbia. She did a great job. She was being interviewed by Mike Tirico, and she was talking about how the USA women's basketball team, they only had 21 days to get ready for the Olympics. They played an exhibition tour as well, just like the men, but they should have no problem later today against Japan. But we all know that they have a talented roster up and down the roster, and they can score the ball with anyone. But we all know that Dawn Staley is a hard-nosed coach, and she preaches defense as well. I want to see how well this unit plays together on defense, and I'm looking forward to watching that aspect of the ladies' game throughout this tournament.
Should be a fun, entertaining tournament. Well, on the women's side, of course, Germany, they won their first ever hoops game. Of course, that game just ended. And Nigeria won their first women's game. Piggyback off what South Sudan did yesterday. They just won their first national game, national team, international game, I should say, in 20 years, and their first Olympic win. So, pretty cool seeing these kind of moments. Like I said, we'll get to all the other Olympic stuff later. As you listen to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, Lakina McGee, Steve Brown with you. Of course, incidentally, that game will be on USA.
Mhm.
With Japan. So again, after our show, we can check that game out as well, see how the ladies do there. Of course, we'll do more Olympic updates later on in the show. So let's just we'll go commercial free this first 45 minutes because we started so late. But let's go to the dive in here, Sid, as the Cubs. They went 2 out of 3 in Kansas City. But Jed's been very active. Jed Hoyer has been very active. We got a couple more days for the trade deadline, just a little over 2 days. Just over 2 days. And Sid, well, tell people about the moves that they've made so far.
I know they picked up a reliever for Toronto in exchange for a couple of prospects. So, of course, Isaac Paredes from Tampa Bay, he was traded to the Cubs yesterday in exchange for Christopher Morel and a couple of prospects. I know Christopher Morel was caught crying in the dugout once
Yeah.
his name was announced in the dugout that he was a part of a trade. You know, you don't like seeing that, but on the flip side, that's the business of it. So that's what to expect. Now, as far as the Cubs on the field, after being shut out 6-0 on Friday, Shota Imanaga, he was roughed up a little bit on Saturday, but Patrick Wisdom, aka P. Will's grand slam was the difference in that one. And of course, yesterday they got some insurance runs late, including another home run for Patrick Wisdom to close out their series and take 2 out of 3 from Kansas City. And Javier Assad, who was one of the best pitchers early in the year, I think it looks like he's starting to settle in now after his return from the IL a couple of weeks ago. So all around a good bounce back series win for the Cubs. I know Jed. I want to ask you this, Lakina. I know that Jed Hoyer says that we're not giving up on the season and blah blah blah. We're not just making moves for this year, but we're making moves for the future. Do you agree with him?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because I saw that moment when Morel, of course, he was hugging the guys as he was leaving, and that's tough because he was 16 years old. They signed him as an international player many years ago, and he's had some great moments. His youthfulness and exuberance. I mean, that's what's going to be missed in that dugout because that's something that they don't have at the moment. So it was tough to see that, but I get because, and I saw a lot of Cubs Twitter we're very upset about that. But again, like our girl Caitlin Sharkey from GN Sports said it on there yesterday. She really, she really hit the nail on the head as she always does. But yeah, I mean, it's a business aspect, and I really think that this is going to be, the interesting part of it. The fact that who's going to be that energy guy because he was the energy guy. Everyone said that this Cubs team is so boring, they're lackadaisical, and they're dragging. And who's gonna be that energy guy now? So they did bring and I think he's gonna kill it in Tampa Bay because that field is really set up for him. So he might have some moments down there in Tampa. I guess that you can't have too many hitters and middle relievers. So that's what Jed has. He has he did. We'll see if he makes any more moves with that. So we'll see if any more guys are going to be going, or do they does Jameson Tyon, does he leave? Does he get traded? Because you probably get a good haul for him, or a nice little
Mm-hmm.
haul if nothing else. So he will see in these next day and a half, 2 days, if he does make any more moves. But yeah, I think this is a good start. I mean, look, the guys that they're bringing back. I mean, they're very solid. They're still young, and they're cost control. So that's another reason why Jed made these moves.
Yeah, I think that's a $64,000 question or $1 million question. Will James and Tyon be traded between now and tomorrow's trade deadline? Like I said, he will bring a haul back. I think he's under contract for the next couple years, I believe. So
Yep.
that's a plus side there if you're a contending team. The Cubs, we're saying it now, and we're going to say it perhaps 1,000 more times, more so Lakia than I, because she's a fan of them and I'm not. But the Cubs need a big name addition this offseason, and I don't care
Mm-hmm.
who it is. Juan Soto, trade for Vladimir Guerrero Jr., assuming he doesn't go anywhere between now and tomorrow. But the Cubs need someone one big to sign and make that lineup more with more juice and more powerful. I know Cody Bellinger has done well whenever he's healthy, but unfortunately, you can't depend on him because I think maybe some people think it's unfair, but he's been injury prone ever since he's been here. Now, when he's healthy, he's one of the best young hitters in the league, but he's been injured 2 years in a row, and I don't know if you could depend on him, Lakina. I think he's still
Yeah,
going
and
to get his money if he chooses to opt out, but he's not going to be as much as he thought he was going to get at the beginning of the year.
that's why I think he's probably going to opt in because of the fact that he knows that since he's been so injury prone and so banged up that he's not going to get that 200, $220 million contract that he's been hoping for. So I think for me, I think that's probably what's going to kind of keep him. So he might just stay. So we'll see what happens there. Now, as for like the rest of if the other names are going, I think look, this is gonna be interesting to see what happens here because will this kind of like jumpstart the Cubs and look, I think if you're this is actually a smart thing that Jed's doing. I mean, yes, he's not giving up on the season, but he is thinking about the future. So this is kind of like a good sort of push pull here because people look, you don't have to choose one or the other. You're not going to be able to trade guys and just wipe everything clean and start over. That's not going to work if you're a Cubs fan. You're not going to not going to be able to set up to Cubs Nation. So you got to do what you're doing. Look, if you get into the wild card spot, great. If you don't, you don't. That's really the best way to approach him, and we'll see if Jed makes any more moves.
I think Jed has realized that too. And let's be real, Lakina. Jed is under contract for I believe after next year for
Yep.
one more year. So
Hmm.
so he's going to be a lame dub GM slash executive. So he's making moves not just to improve this team for next year, but his job is possibly on the line too. So you have to take that into consideration.
Absolutely, and going to the south side now. We'll talk more about this with Jordan coming up in a few minutes. But Bueller, hello, Bueller. Hello. I mean, you thought that maybe that Chris Getz was going to be a little bit more active. You thought that maybe guys like Tommy Pham and Eric Fetty would be, on their way out by now. Nothing's happening so far. Now we still got a couple more days left, before the deadline. But how come we're not seeing anything? Like, hello, hello, is this
maybe
on?
the White Sox are renting a couple of Greyhound buses as we speak, so they can ship them off all at once. I don't know, but from what I read and what I was told over the weekend, there was a couple of NL East teams that were there scouting Eric Fetty and
Hmm.
Garrett Crochet, who started yesterday. He had a rough outing, and Eric Fetty actually pitched okay into the fourth inning on last Saturday night. I want to discuss something that I heard on the broadcast. Even though I was there, I heard something on the broadcast with that Paul Konerko said on the
Ah,
Fox broadcast.
I heard that too. Yeah.
Time permitting, if we don't discuss it here, we'll discuss it with Jordan after the top of the hour. But as far as Eric Fetty and Garrett Crochet, I think Crochet is going to stay, especially after we talked about last Friday. Like, I'm assuming that we did
Yeah, we
about
did.
him pulling that move, saying,
Yep.
like, if you trade me to a continuing team, I want a contract extension, which is smart because you protect yourself in your future. And we know most of these teams that don't give a damn about you once you're injury prone anyway. They want to throw you out in the garbage can and bring on someone else. But as far as Eric Fetty's concerned, he definitely can help a contending team. We know that. I heard that Milwaukee's in the conversation for him,
Hmm.
along with the Atlanta Braves. So he'll probably get moved to one of those teams within the next 24 to 48 hours. So we'll see what happens with him. Like I said, Tommy Pham, I know the Mets were looking at him hard this weekend. So like I said, maybe all of them will go at once on a big Greyhound bus out of Comiskey Park tomorrow. No pun intended, uh, but I think both. I think it's safe to say both Garrett Crochet and Luis Robert Jr. are going to stay here, but everybody else, Fetty, Tommy Pham, perhaps Michael Kopech, Paul DeYoung, maybe Nicky Lopez, all those guys are going to be gone by this time tomorrow.
Well, it's funny you should say that because this just in from Jeff Passan at ESPN. The Cardinals, the White Sox, and the Dodgers are in agreement on a three-way trade that will send Eric Fay to St. Louis and Tommy Edman to the Dodgers. They'll be getting a haul of prospects, this is according to what Jeff Passan, he and Ken Rosenthal from The Athletic has said. So we'll see what that haul is. I'm sure our buddy Jordan Lazowski will be joining us in about 10 minutes. I'm sure he's working on that as well. So again, this just in breaking news: Cardinals, White Sox, and Dodgers three-way trade. Eric Fetty to St. Louis, Tommy Edman to the Dodgers, and a haul. For I guess from both sides. So I guess Chris Getz, I think, must have heard a lot of White Sox fans saying that, hey, where's that haul at? So we'll see what that haul is. So we'll have that. By the time our buddy Jordan comes on in a little bit, but Real quick. We've seen some other teams, being very active here as well. The Yankees got Jazz Chisholm, the great
Hmm.
third baseman from the Marlins. They really needed that because the bats, they definitely need that with all the injuries they got right now. Michael Lorenzen, he goes to Kansas City to boost up that rotation. I know we've been saying that they definitely need an extra pitching over there
Hmm.
with the Royals, considering what happened this over this weekend with the Cubs. So among some of the other trades here, what kind of caught your eye, caught your attention this week?
The Chisholm trade from Miami to the New York Yankees. You mentioned the Yankees have been struggling offensively, especially with the injuries that they've been having all year, and especially to John Carlos Stanton. The Yankees pitching has been struggling. As y'all know, Rodon,
Hmm.
he got roped up a little bit last night, but hung on as the Yankees take 2 out of 3 from the Red Sox. The Dodgers, uh, they take, I believe, 2 out of 3 from the Houston Astros. Their bullpen damn nearly gave it up again yesterday,
Yeah.
and we know the Dodgers have suffered through injuries throughout their lineup all year long in their starting rotation. I know Clayton Kershaw returned late last week. We talked about it on our last show, but you would think the Dodgers are in the sweepstakes to get a starting pitcher. Who will that be? We don't know, but the Dodgers, they need to make a move. They still a good team, but they need to make a move. San Diego is starting to pick it up, Lakina. They only lost one game on this current East Coast road trip. We saw what Dylan Cease did last Thursday afternoon in our nation's capital against the Nationals with his first career no hitter. Also, to the Pittsburgh Pirates, they won a wild game yesterday, 6-5 in 10
Hmm.
innings over Arizona. Also, teams are involved in a wild card race there. Of course, the Cardinals, they take care of the Washington Nationals, taking 2 out of 3 over the weekend. Eric Fetty, now new member of the Cardinals. I think his next start will be here in Chicago next weekend against the Cubs.
Yeah, I saw that. So yeah, that might be interesting there as well. The Mariners, who of course the White Sox got swept by. We saw that some of the moves that they made. I think they need to do more because they really need to kind of like well, and of course look, you play the White Sox to cure whatever ails you. So that's what happened with the Mariners. So
And you get Randy Rosarena, so I think that helps
yeah,
too.
that helps a whole lot. So yeah, they definitely need to they definitely they beef up their bullpen and they need another bat, I think. So we'll see
Hmm.
what they do now. Baltimore is interesting because they had they won a wild game to avoid getting sweep against the Padres. Speaking of, so we'll see if they can sure beef up the that middle relief rotation there, and we'll see if they can get even more. I know that Detroit. I forgot the Detroit pitcher's name, but I know I don't think
Tariq
he's.
Skubal. Hmm.
Yeah, Scooble. He's not going anywhere, so I don't think we'll see what happens. I don't think the Tigers want to get rid of him. Cleveland's interesting because they've struggled lately. So you got to wonder, like, will Cleveland? They did win 2 out of 3 against the Phillies, so that definitely should help their confidence. But I think we'll see if they can kind of make any moves themselves, if anything.
Now going to the National League, Lakina, the Atlanta Braves. Ronaldo Lopez, former White Sox pitcher, he was an All-Star this year for Atlanta. Left the game yesterday with tight forearm, a tight
Yes.
forearm injury. And
Yeah.
as we said before, if him and or Chris Sale gets hurt for the Braves, I'm not gonna say it's over, but it's pretty damn close. I know the Braves had heated up offensively. Their last 3 games that they hit 3 or more home runs. I know they won
Hmm.
the last 2 games in that series, in that weekend series against the New York Mets. So of course, it's going to be between them and the Mets for one of those 3 wild card spots. But Atlanta cannot afford to suffer any more injuries to their key stars. So it looks like their bats are starting to get going, but the pitching, at least as of right now, is taking a minor step back.
Yeah, what a wild series that was over the weekend. They split their 4 gamer with the Mets, like you said. So it'll be interesting to see what if these two teams do anything else during the deadline. Now Milwaukee, we'll see if they beef up their middle reliever. So we'll see if they can they'll make any more moves during the for the deadline as well. The hope to kind of in hopes of uh, keeping that division going now. They did win 2 out of 3 against the Marlins, so that should definitely help them with their confidence. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with them and the Dodgers. Like you said, we talked about that. We'll see. The Dodgers will get they got a nice deep farm. So we'll see if they make any more moves here the deadline. They definitely need to kind of beef up their rotation, especially their middle relief. They lost 2 out of 3, at Houston. So we'll see if they can kind of get it going here and see if they can kind of try to, kind of like beef it up so they can kind of keep that lead at bay.
Yeah, back to the American League. Looking at the Minnesota Twins take 2 out of 3 in Detroit against the Tigers. As I said before, I'm looking at that Twins starting staff. I know you have Pablo Lopez leading that group, but Bailey Ober has been pitching well in his last 6 starts. He's pitching at a 2.33 ERA clip, and yesterday he had his best performance of the year. 8 shutout innings, giving up only 1 hit, 2 walks, but 11 strikeouts. Very great job by Mr. Bailey Ober as the Twins shut out the Tigers 5-0 to take 2 out of 3 in that series. And now the Twins are 58-46, second place in that American League Central.
We'll see if they can kind of get within distance there of Cleveland, because we know they're not really going to do anything, Minnesota. They may make some minor moves, so I'm sure they may rethink that since they are still right there in that division. There might be only one team coming from that division for the playoffs. So it'll be interesting to see what Minnesota does right before the trade deadline. So it's going to get a little bit interesting now that with these some of these teams, they're kind of like for sale. So it's going to get a little bit interesting these next couple of days to see what teams, like which teams kind of this is going to be interesting to see what teams what haul does do they get? And it looks like the White Sox got a pitching prospect, River Ryan, one of I think he was in the top 15 a couple years ago, drafted. So they got a nice little haul for that. So we'll see if he makes any more big prospects. I'm sure Jordan Lazowski will tell us more about him in a little bit. So anything else baseball way before we go to the schedule real quick?
Real quickly, Kino, do you think the Texas Rangers will do anything between now and tomorrow? I know they got swept over the weekend at Toronto. And do you think Toronto's going to trade Vladimir Guerrero Jr.? I say no.
I don't think so. I think you got to have someone there to kind of like get people to come into to Toronto. The old not the old Skydomes. I don't call it Skydomes anymore. I think they tore it down. But yeah, I think you need somebody to kind of get it going there. So I don't think he's going anywhere, at least not right now. As far as the Rangers, we'll see. I mean, that's not good. They get swept by Toronto, so we'll see what happens there. But they might make a move. We'll see. Texas, they got guys coming back, but that Toronto Minnesota Toronto over the weekend, that's a big step back for them.
All right. We'll run down the schedule quickly for this week. Some of the series that are starting tonight, including Kansas City at Chicago to take on the White Sox on the south side. Toronto visits Baltimore. They're playing a doubleheader for starting in about an hour from now. Cleveland visits Detroit. The Yankees at Phillies. The first game is on MLB Network tonight at 5:30. Minnesota will face the New York Mets in the Big Apple. Your Seattle Mariners will visit Fenway Park in the Boston Red Sox. And the aforementioned Texas Rangers will visit St. Louis to take on the Cardinals. Atlanta will go to Milwaukee to take on the Brewers. Pittsburgh will visit Houston. And the Washington Nationals will visit the Arizona Diamondbacks.
All right, so Prime Video, that'll be the first game of that will be on Prime. TBS there on Philadelphia.
Tuesday.
Yep, and for Tuesday, you got the Dodgers in San Diego. That should be a fun one. You got the Nationals and the D-backs. That's a doubleheader on MLB. You got Oakland and San Francisco. That starts tonight. Pittsburgh and Houston, you already said that. You got Colorado and the Angels. You got Texas and St. Louis. And you got, they got the Brewers hosting the Braves as well. That starts tomorrow, too.
And the Cubs will start a 3-game series tomorrow in the Queen City as they'll take on the Cincinnati Reds. And that's your schedule for MLB for this upcoming week.
All right, our buddy Jordan Lazowski will be joining us in just a little bit. He'll tell us a little bit more about the crazy three-way trade between the Cardinals and, of course, the Dodgers as well. So baseball talk coming up next with Mr. Lazowski. Lakina McGee, City Bro, Second City Sports on Sports of Chicago. More Diamond Talk coming up right after this.
No, I don't know though. I'm scared. I mean, you're
my lane? No, not at all. Are you not paying attention? Are you texting? I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6. It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention. I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up. My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention. It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Hi, I'm Tom Brady, the director of DODEA. September is National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. The simple act of reaching out and caring for those in our communities is something we all can do. Just being there for someone you care about can be a tremendous first step in getting them access to confidential resources and support that they need. It only takes one person and one small act and 1 minute to make a difference. Let's make a difference.
Many will hear the calling. Few will earn the title. United States Marine. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports on Monday edition. We're live in the living color right here on Sports Soul Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakina. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow Makita McGee on the Twitter, X, and the IG.
If you have any questions or comments, especially for our next guest as we talk White Sox and the rest of the world of MLB as a trade deadline is a little bit over 24 hours away. You can go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comments section. Lakina, we'll get them up on the screen for you. And just a daily reminder, you can catch Sports Zone Chicago's programming, including our show, Second City Sports, live in the living color, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year on Roku TV.
All right, Sid. So let's get one of our favorites. It's been a while since we had him on, of course, to talk this big trade involving the White Sox, Cardinals, and Dodgers. And if Mr. Chris Guest has any more moves in the rest of the MLB trades as well. From Sox 35th, he's the one, the only, the super cool and fabulous Mr. Jordan Lazowski. Hey, Jordan, how are ya?
Good. Thanks for having me back on. It's been a while. Happy Monday.
Monday.
Yeah, we just got some news finally to talk about. Thank goodness. I was getting a little worried as we were starting this.
Okay, yeah. So, of course, Eric Fetty, he goes to the Cardinals. Tommy Edman, he goes to the Dodgers. Can you tell us about some of the prospects that the Sox are getting back from either or both the teams?
Yeah, currently, we don't know yet. I've been surprised that this came out about 10, 15 minutes ago at this point, and they still haven't released everything. The one name they have released is Miguel Vargas, infielder from the Los Angeles Dodgers. He is someone who a lot of guys for the Dodgers is kind of a product of being stuck behind a lot of good other players. Vargas has been someone who's strong defensively, strong in terms of plate discipline, just really hasn't gotten a chance to show it. He has a little bit of power, not as much, but also he's a middle infielder, probably more of a second baseman, maybe outfielder. But overall, that's the first piece. Other than that, they've mentioned potentially River Ryan, who is another guy in the Dodger system, product of just there's so many pitchers. He hasn't gotten as much time. The hope is that he could slot in as a starter for this organization as well. Has come up, pitched a little bit in the majors these past couple weeks. He's 25 years old. That's all we know so far. I don't think it has been confirmed. Again, the only one that's confirmed is Miguel Vargas. River Ryan isn't even confirmed. So we are still waiting. And as we kind of get updates here, I'm happy to share them. But yeah, we're kind of playing this on the fly still. So it's nice to see the first domino fall for the White Sox, though.
It looks like the next domino will fall will be the other veterans that we'll mention in his interview, Jordan. But I want to get your thoughts on the Garrett Crochet situation. Of course, he spoke to the media last Friday before the series against Seattle. And of course, the reports came out that through his agency that if he was traded to a contending team, he wants a contract extension. Of course, Garrett Crochet said the right thing and said that I'm worried about pitching for the White Sox, and that's what I'm going to do moving forward. Me personally, I think that Garrett Crochet is doing the right thing and protecting himself and looking out for himself, because we know most of these teams don't care about you once your skills are break down and they just want to get rid of you. What are your thoughts about this whole Garrett Crochet situation right now? Do you think he'll be moved by tomorrow?
Yeah, it's really hard because he threw in a huge wrinkle by saying, hey, I'm not going to pitch in October unless I get extended. And you get why he did that. You know, the Sox have a pitching plan for him to come back from injury. He's coming up on that pitch limit. If he's not already there, it's coming soon. So he's going to say, hey, if teams are going to extend me past that, like I'm going to need some financial insurance that, hey, if this doesn't work and I get re-injured, I'm at least getting paid. Which from a player's perspective, I totally get it. From a team perspective, the problem now becomes trading being contingent on a contract extension. There's a lower likelihood that he gets moved. I am going to stay on the train that he doesn't get moved. I view this very similarly to what the White Sox did with Dylan Cease last trade deadline. You dangle him up to that final hour and see if someone's really willing to overpay. But if they don't overpay, fine. He's probably not going to pitch much the rest of this year for the White Sox anyway. Just keep him for now and reassess in the offseason. I do think they eventually move him, but I do think it's like what they did with Cease, that they dangle him, wait for someone to overpay, and then go from there.
Do you think Luis Robert Jr. is going anywhere?
No, because he has not played good baseball recently. And I think the argument from a lot of beat writers has been, hey, you know, he can't stay on the field. He can't stay healthy. He's only had one healthy season in his career. That's one major red flag. The second being, he really hasn't played particularly well. If you look at his numbers compared to where they were last year, or even in previous partial seasons where he's been injured, I don't think they're in a position to get the maximum value they could for Luis Robert. If someone's willing to give you a package that is up to par with what you would expect to get for Luis Robert, some top prospects, some top 30, 40 guys, where it feels more worth it. And yeah, I would consider that maybe them waiting so long to the deadline to make their first move. My gut tells me Chris Getz isn't getting what he wants in some of these negotiations, and he'd rather keep these guys until the offseason when teams kind of reassess where they are heading into next season, who misses out on some free agents, things like that, and then decides to move them. Again, very similarly to Crochet and Dylan Cease, Robert would be right along with them. Just these high-value guys that if you're not getting what you think you deserve from them, just try again in the offseason.
Sid?
We hang out with our guy Jordan Lazowski from Sox on 35th, right here on Second City Sports, the Monday edition, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakina hanging out here with you, Jordan. Let's go to the Sox bullpen. Of course, statistically, they've been much better over the past month, but one of the names that is being brought up is Michael Kopech. What do you think are his chances that he's going to be gone by tomorrow, and what do you think realistically can Chris Getz get for him?
So here's where I'll go in and say 100%, because Michael Kopech, they just announced, was part of that trade for Eric Fetty. Here's the full trade. The Cardinals are getting Fetty and Tommy Pham.
Okay.
The Dodgers are getting Tommy Edman from the Cardinals, as well as Michael Kopech.
Ooh.
And the White Sox are getting the previously mentioned Miguel Vargas, and then 3 other middle infield prospects. So River Ryan did not end up being in it. That was just a name.
Okay.
Noah Miller, Gerald Perez, and Alexander Albertus. I'll be the first to tell you, I have not read that deeply into their farm system just yet. However, if that ends up being the full deal, Vargas is the headliner here for the White Sox. I would be surprised if they got 3 players, or they gave up 3 players, excuse me, and they didn't get anything from the Cardinals, especially because 2 of their players went to the Cardinals. For the Dodgers to supplement and everything would be kind of crazy. So far, that's what we know. So far, that is 4 middle infield prospects, with the headliner being Miguel Vargas. The other 3 kind of range in that 15 to 20 range in terms of Dodgers prospects. So if you want my first initial reaction without reading too much into those players, number 1, let's see if they get anything from the Cardinals. But number 2, I'm really underwhelmed by this initially, to be honest with you. To get 3 players and have Miguel Vargas so far be the headliner here would be very underwhelming for me. So I'm hoping that as we record, we get a little bit more information about who the Cardinals might have given up to the White Sox for this. But otherwise, I don't know. I'm a little underwhelmed by this, if you want my honest, just initial reaction without, again, knowing these guys too well.
Yeah, Vargas is definitely the name here, and it'll be interesting to see, like you said, if they do, if we get some of the stuff, because Cardinals farm is actually pretty deep, so it would be kind of silly if they didn't get at least a couple, 1 or 2 guys from their roster. So we'll see what happens there. Now, you see any other big names leaving? Because I guess with the trade deadline coming up in about a day and a half, like, do you see any other names moving, perhaps?
Well, it's crazy because 3 of the names just kind of went. Fetty, Pham, and Kopech all in one trade, which kind of, I had written about this as well. Just the idea that, maybe they would try and pair relievers with their starters to kind of increase the value in return. And it seems like they did this. That being said, if they're not going to trade Crochet and they're not going to trade Roberts, then you're really left with like Tanner Banks and John Brebbia out of the bullpen, who are going to get you probably not much, if I'm being honest with you. The only other one to potentially consider is just his name's been floated out there, Andrew Vaughn. I think Andrew Vaughn is in a place where his time with the White Sox has probably come and gone. I think we've established that you spent a 3rd overall pick on him. He is not playing up to, nor will he likely ever play up to that caliber of player moving forward, which is it is what it is. It's a failure of development from the White Sox standpoint, but also it might be just time to move on. Give him a change of scenery. See if a team maybe wants to take Brebbia and Andrew Vaughn, for example. Just package them together, see if they can help a need. In that same vein of helping a need, Paul DeJong, who is very cheap. He has probably a couple $100,000 left on his deal with the White Sox this year. 18 home runs is not an insignificant number to add to a team that maybe just needs some shortstop help or needs some power help. The problem is, like I kind of alluded to, any of these guys is not going to be insanely valuable by themselves, and even when packaged together. I mean, we're talking about this return for Fetty, and Fetty, Pham, and Kopech seeming kind of light. I don't think we'd be overly impressed with a Vaughn return, a Paul DeJong return, any of those guys. I think we could see them move just simply because their time on the White Sox probably has come to pass. But I don't think we're going to be celebrating some of the returns at this deadline, maybe like we did with the Dylan Cease trade, or even like Lucas Giolito and Lance Lynn at the time when they were traded last trade deadline. It just doesn't seem the White Sox right now, which is a crappy situation to be in. They don't have the caliber of talent that would warrant a high return coming back. So you're kind of stuck in this middle ground of what do you do now? You don't have a lot of talent coming up, but you don't have a lot of talent to give away either. You're kind of in this baseball purgatory, which is not a fun place to be.
Hanging out with us is Jordan Lazowski from Sox 35th right here on Second City Sports. We're live in the living color. See Lakina here with you talking White Sox and the rest of MLB. I love doing live shows, Lakina. It seems like big baseball news that happens. We have Jordan right here with us. So Jordan's been part of some of the biggest baseball trade moments on our show over the last few years. Jordan, I'll ask you about AJ Brzezinski, of course, from the 05 World Series team, now current broadcaster with Fox. He did call the game last Saturday. And, of course, his name was floated out there from Bob Nightingale in his column yesterday in the USA Today, talking about that AJ Brzezinski will be his name will be under consideration to be the team's new manager for 2025. Of course, AJ said on his podcast earlier today on Foul Territory that he denies all reports. He has no interest in the job. What are your thoughts about the situation?
I hope AJ is telling the truth and he really has no interest, because I have no interest in seeing it personally. I'll be honest, like, I'm a big AJ Brzezinski. I'll love it with you. I'm a big AJ Brzezinski guy. I was a big fan of him. I thought he was a solid Major League Baseball player. The White Sox have this tendency, and we've seen it before, to take a guy that White Sox fans really love and kind of ruin how much ruin their memory of them by turning around and putting them in a situation they're not qualified to be in, and then ruining how fans feel about that player. Robin Ventura is a great example of that.
Yeah.
Came on, everyone loved Robin Ventura.
Mm-hmm.
Came in, managed a team, everyone hated Robin Ventura by the end of it. Robin Ventura was neither qualified nor really wanted that job. I think AJ's in the same boat. Like, having played Major League Baseball doesn't necessarily qualify you to be a Major League Baseball manager. Not every player is going to be a good coach. That's just how it is. Right. And that's in life, outside of sports as well. Just because you're good at something doesn't mean you're good at teaching or managing or things like that.
Right.
So he has no coaching experience. He's been all broadcaster based. As people compared it to like Stephen Vogt with the Guardians being hired this year. Difference was Vogt was hired by a team that he didn't play for, and he was also a bullpen coach the year before with the Seattle Mariners. So those are now two different teams that hired him that he didn't play for. It's not an apples to oranges comparison. So, I mean, that's all of the sort of inner details of my opinion behind it, but more so there's got to be somebody in Major League Baseball who can hold guys accountable, who isn't going to be a yes man, that just didn't play with the Chicago White Sox or isn't affiliated with the Chicago White Sox. That's why I liked the Pedro Grifol hiring initially, just because it seemed like they went through a process. They found an outside guy who had no connection with the team, and they chose him. We see it didn't work out, but that doesn't mean that you don't try that same process again and try and hire from the outside. That's the correct way to do it, even if the results didn't match what you would have hoped.
I love your post from yesterday, Jordan, about, hey, let's get the whole 2005 band back together.
I mean, yeah. If we're just gonna do 2005, if we're just gonna reference 2005 all the time, like, let's just get them all back together and just pretend it's 2005 all the time. Like, that's the frustration for me. I think it's a lot of fans saw the Brzezinski thing like, oh yeah, would love it. AJ's this, that. I'm like, our judgment of a situation is very clouded by 2005. And the problem is, the reason it's happening is the problem for it all is because that's all we have as White Sox fans to reference in terms of good times recently. That's a problem, but it doesn't mean we have to keep going back to that. Those are two separate things. Like, let's keep the memories for what it is, but also understand that the answer isn't always, well, what did the 2005 White Sox do? So
totally different time as well. It'll be 20 years next year. My gosh. Let's talk about the rest of baseball, because all this White Sox stuff is kind of different. Well, outside the trade, the rest is kind of depressing. Which trade so far has kind of like piqued your interest, or were there have been any trades so far that's kind of like, really?
The trade you're saying?
Yeah, all the trades so far, like the Jazz Chisholm trade, Michael.
Okay, yeah. So I'm trying to think, because my instinct is to say the Cubs, because the Cubs came out and said they were going to sell and then did two things that didn't look like they were selling. But at the same time, the more you think about those trades, the more I've really liked what they've done. And I think more teams that are kind of in that middle ground should be doing. They got pieces more geared towards a future rather than trying to buy for just this year. They bought for 2025 and 2026. Like, I think more teams should do that. I think more teams should go and say, hey, we're going to punt on this year, but we're going to go get guys that are going to be of value to us next year. How the White Sox approach it and how a lot of rebuilding teams approach it is, listen, we're out of it. It's over. We're just going to get rid of all of our assets and hope these prospects work out. Paredes and Pearson that the Cubs got are both major league guys. So you don't have to bank on developing prospects with them. And I think, you know, like you're saying, in terms of the head scratchers, it kind of looks like that on the surface. But the more you look at it, the more I actually really like what they did. I know it's voodoo basically to say the Cubs are doing something good in this city. I get it as a Sox fan. I totally get it. Trust me. But overall, I think just in general, I've been surprised that, and again, as more information on this trade continues to roll in, I've been surprised with how much teams are getting back for relievers. This is just at a high level. Relievers apparently are very valuable right now, and they're returning good prospects, which, again, to circle it back to where we are now, I'm very surprised Michael Kopech alone couldn't get the White Sox more in a deal. So between the Cubs as a specific team with their trades and just the reliever market in general, I think those are the two things where I'm like, oh, interesting when it comes to this deadline.
Speaking of another former White Sox player, what are your thoughts about Dylan Cease overall in his performance last Thursday in our nation's capital against the Nationals, finally getting his first career no-hitter?
We all knew it was coming. At a certain point, you knew he'd eventually find a way to put it all together. He's had an up and down season. And you both know I'm a very big fan of his. I've been a big fan of his since he was with the White Sox.
Mm-hmm.
So it was cool to be able to sit down and watch. I've maybe watched the 7th, 8th, and 9th innings of that game just to see him finally finish it off. I think it's more than well-deserved. I think, like I said, it was a long time coming at this point. When your stuff is that good, you're eventually going to be just that good on an individual day. And it happened to finally work out for him. I'm very glad to see it for him. I think the fan backlash has been this. It's like, oh, the guy we traded just threw a no-hitter, and the one we traded him for just gave up 8 runs the next day. It's like, yes, I get it, but it goes beyond that. But overall, just very, very happy to see what he was able to do. Like I said, well-deserved. You knew it was coming at the end. The least surprising thing to me was to turn that game on and see that he finished it off.
Yeah, considering after what happened a couple of years ago, because he almost threw a no-hitter then. So yeah, I think that's probably
when
why
you're that close.
Yeah.
When you're that close once and your stuff is that good, you're gonna get back to it eventually.
Yeah, absolutely. So what about the rest of the division? You know, Cleveland and Minnesota. We'll see if do you see either one of those teams making any big moves? You know, we know one. We'll probably they probably won't, but do you see like any minor moves for those two?
Yeah, here's the problem. Like, the AL Central has gotten this reputation, deservedly so, that somebody has to win it. And like nobody's going to do anything that drastic. We saw the other day the Twins came out and basically said, hey, we're tapped out financially. We're not going to be able to make a big move unless we offload something else. The Guardians, we know, aren't typically a team that take on big money deals outside of Jose Ramirez. The Kansas City Royals added Michael Lorenzen today. I don't know if they're going to add more. Like, that's a very small thing to do. The Tigers are probably going to sell. The White Sox are probably going to sell. Like I said, at the end of the day, someone has to win the division, and that's the reputation the AL Central has got. And it's been earned, is what I'll say. Unfortunately, I don't see anyone making a big move. Like, the White Sox even came out and said, you know, the Guardians were super interested in Fetty, but they refused to trade him to a contender, which I didn't get at all. Because, you know, some years, if you don't want to trade to a contender when you're both contender within your own division, when you're also contending, like, that's fine. If I don't want to trade Eric Fetty to the Guardians, and I'm right on the cusp of being good. Fine, I get that. Fetty's got 1 year left on his deal. The White Sox are not going to be good next year. And their farm system is pretty good. Why would you rule out a team simply because they're within your division if you're not planning to compete in your division over the course of his contract? Again, it's a 1 year deal. The White Sox aren't going to be good next year. Why does it matter if they trade him to the Guardians if you can get a good deal? Like, you're just trying to get the best deal possible.
Right.
All that being said, I guess the long and short of it, I don't. Guardians, Cleveland, Minnesota, Kansas City will do things. They won't do anything drastic. But the thing is, rarely do they ever. It's the reputation the AL Central has earned.
All right, last moment or two with Jordan Lazowski of Sox on 35th, right here on Second City Sports on Chicago City. Lakina here with you. All right, Jordan, let's go back to the White Sox. We mentioned the Dylan Cease trade earlier. Of course, Drew Thorpe is one of the young pitchers that could be part of the future. I really like the way he's pitched, despite what happened last Friday night. And of course, Jonathan Cannon, the jury's still out on him as far as me is concerned. What do you think about those two young starters heading up this White Sox rotation for the foreseeable future?
I really like Jonathan Cannon. I think I equate him similarly to Eric Fetty in terms of how they pitch, in terms of their profiles are east-west, which is what I mean is, you don't get the super, like Dylan Cease is more like, hey, you get the high rising fastball and then the sharp curveball. Like Cannon and Fetty are more like, hey, you got the pitch that runs this way or to the left, and then you got the pitch that runs to the right. And it really doesn't move up and down as much. It's an east-west profile. Those guys are usually more pitch to contact, which is fine as long as you only have so many of those guys. I really like Cannon. I think I've been impressed by his ability to get to about 95, 96 miles an hour. I think that will only benefit him. And I think his stuff is good enough to be like a 3 or 4 in the rotation. Thorpe, I continue to be the one that, and I get a lot of crap for it, is I'm still waiting to be like, I want to buy in, but I'm not there yet. And I think it's because, and Steve Stone said on the last broadcast when he struggled against Seattle, like the second time he saw Seattle, all they decided to do was sit on the changeup. And because his fastball only is about 89 to 90 miles an hour, he gets it up there, but for the most part, it's 89 to 91. Because if you sit on the changeup and react to the fastball, you're not going to get beat by a 90 mile an hour fastball in the major leagues. So if you sit on the best pitch, even if you don't get the best pitch, you're still able to react. The difference being, if he was throwing 95, 96, well then, yeah, you can't sit on a changeup because you're going to miss the fastball every single time. Between that and, when you're a pitch to contact pitcher, you have to have awesome control. You can't have bad control days. And if you looked at Thorpe's last start, he was just missing with middle fastballs. And that's just not going to work. Like guys who throw 97, 98 can get away with it, but when you're throwing 92, you can't. So I want to buy into him. He's a fun pitcher. I think he will be a good major league pitcher. I think he's at least a 3 starter. The difference between being a number 2, number 1 and being like a 3, 4, 5 starter is how you're able to command your stuff. And again, how you're able to show a good enough pitch mix and add maybe a little bit more velocity so that you're sitting 92, 94 versus 89 to 92. Because the comp I'll give to him is Giolito. And Giolito was really, really good for some time. What happened when Giolito lost his fastball, you started seeing him throwing more like 90 to 92 towards the end with the White Sox. And you saw those results were very different than his early years with the White Sox. And and what do we all know about Giolito? Really good changeup. Teams could sit on that and react to the fastball if it wasn't fast enough. So again, I want to be in on Thorpe. I think a lot of White Sox fans are. He's a fun pitcher. When he's on and he's commanding, he's awesome. What I worry about is when teams have already seen him a couple times, does he have hopefully have the fastball velocity to be okay with it and the command behind it too?
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see. His jury still out on him now. Of course, big college football fan here. I know you are as well. You're a Notre Dame grad, Jordan. Last question for me. Season starts in about like 7 weeks from now, so 7 weeks, give or take. What do you think of the Irish chances this year? Can they get into the now 12-team playoff with about 18 teams and about 5 divisions? Whatever. What's your thoughts?
Gosh, I hope so, because I've been waiting for this sort of expansion for a while. You knew they weren't getting the top 4 too often. So I'm excited for it more, I think, more than usual, just because it's been such a frustrating baseball season. It has not been fun to watch this team. I'll be the first to tell you that. I'll be the first to tell you I haven't been to as many games as I usually am. I know, Sydney, I see in the 108 all the time in all their photos. I don't know how you go to so many baseball games. It's
all about the fans. That's it, George. Yeah, it's all about the fans. That's it.
Exactly.
It's very frustrating as a fan to sit there, and thank God it only takes like 2.5 hours now, these games with the pitch clock. Like, it's very frustrating to watch this team lose. So, but back to college football. I'm very excited for it. Again, more so maybe because the baseball season has been so frustrating. With the 12-team playoff, like, I know they can't be top 4 just with the rules, but hey, slot in 7, 8, 9, 10. You can probably be a top 10 team, have some fun, but at least get a playoff game, at least keep fans interested. I think what's nice about the 12 team too is hopefully one loss just doesn't automatically rule you out. Like I think a lot of times you see one loss at either a 2-team or a 4-team playoff, and it's like, oh, well, season's over. And sometimes that loss is in week 3. There's 7, 8 more weeks, 9 more weeks after that. Like I want to be engaged as though my team might still make the playoffs. I think that's one nice thing about this. Like one loss doesn't necessarily put you on this bubble of, oh, we're probably done. So go Irish. Let's hope it's a good season. I'm a big Marcus Freeman fan too. So to see the team succeed would be awesome outside of just having gone there.
All right. Last question for me, Jordan. One team to be in the American League and one team to be in the National League.
Ooh, you know what? I'm going to go off the typical script and say the Astros, simply because they have made such a climb back. You never want to see them in the playoffs. I think the obvious answers of like the Orioles and the Yankees are good ones. But if the Astros end up in the playoffs, that is not a team you ever want to see in the playoffs. They might not be as good as they've been in the past, but they've been there. They know how to handle the situation. I would not want to see them necessarily. And I think in the National League, the Dodgers are always an easy answer. I really continue to like what the Phillies are doing. I like that they continue to just be aggressive, add on, and not settle for thinking the team on the field is good enough. I continue to be a Phillies fan for that reason. I think kind of in a similar vein as the Astros, if the Braves are in, another team that's just been there, done it, you don't want to necessarily come across them either. I will go out on a limb and probably say I think the winner of the World Series probably comes from the National League this year. I just think it's better. I personally think if you run up and down the Dodgers and, the Phillies are always good, but also can't miss out on the Braves. I think between those teams, I do think the eventual winner comes from the National League. But to answer your question, I'll go Astros and Phillies.
Okay, interesting. Jordan, this has been so much fun as always. Thank you so much for coming on. We're definitely going to have you back on again. So meanwhile, where people can find all your great work.
Oh, well, as always, thanks for having me on. I love what you guys do. I think it's such an important thing to be able to have so many different discussion topics in one long podcast. So I love what you guys do. It's very, very awesome. Jay Lazowski 14 is my personal handle. Socks on 35th is where I do all my writing. I plug all of the guys, Joe Binder, who runs and owns the page. All of our phenomenal writers. Like, we're doing what we can, kind of like you guys. We're doing what we can to make this team this season as interesting as possible. And I think the more we support each other, especially in times like this, the better off we are. So I always like to call out our writers, our writers, photographers, and even those who just make social media content for us. Like, we're doing what we can, and we appreciate all the support. So
7 more weeks, folks. 7 more weeks. 7 more
That's
weeks.
what I can. It's like, is it really that many? Like,
Yeah, I know. Oh, good heavens.
All right, thank you very much, Jordan, for joining us today. Great job as always, and keep up the great work. And like Lakina said, we'll definitely have you back on again. And thank you for your for your continued support of us.
Of course. Thank you for having me on. Look forward to doing this again.
Definitely.
All
Thanks,
right,
Jordan.
take care.
Thank you.
All
right.
right. So let's, of course, once again, this was Jordan Lazowski on Sox on 35th. All right, Sid, time to stretch for our last break of the show.
Looks like we have something to celebrate when we come back.
Yes, we do. Of course, well, spoiler alert, folks. We'll do that before we go to break. Nice little celebration there for the U.S. men's gymnastics team. We'll give you some other Olympic updates as well. Big contracts for a couple of rising QBs in the NFL, and so much more. And also Old School TV Monday, Lakina McGee, Cindy Brown, Second City Sports, Sports of Chicago. A little celebrating coming up right after this.
No, I don't know though. I'm scared. I mean, you're so
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I needed for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class. These colored pencils, too. These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Hey. Welcome back to Second City Sports on this Monday edition, right live and in living color, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid, that's Lakina. You can follow yours surely on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80, that's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow my Kenny McGee on the Twitter, X, King again, the IG.
This is our last break of the show for today. So, if you have any last minute questions or comments for us, you can hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comments section. Look in and get them up on the screen for you.
And I guess it has changed again. I'm looking through our buddy Russ Dorsey, of course. We've friend of the show. We got to try to get him back on from Yahoo Sports. Now he's saying that again, this is the update of that crazy 3-team trade between the Cardinals, Dodgers, and White Sox. Cardinals get Eric Fetty and Tommy Pham. The Dodgers get Tommy Edman and Michael Kopech, while the White Sox get Miguel Vargas, Gerald Perez, and Alexander Abertus. Unfortunately, Noah Miller looks like is not a part of that trade, so I guess all the initial reports were false. So again, I'm sure that'll change again within the next 10 minutes. So we'll keep you guys updated on that. But crazy 3-team trade, if you will. And Agent Persini just confirmed what we are. Well, all three of us and Jordan Lazowski said he's not interested in the White Sox job.
Watch it. They'll probably go after Konerko or somebody else. I said it sarcastically in my quote tweet yesterday before the White Sox finale against Seattle. Cue up the Ozzy again rumors again. What are about now? Like, I love Ozzy. All this is not his fault, but if you do it again like you did the last couple of times, teasing fans that he could be your next manager, that's not going to sit well with Sox fans. Leave that man alone. Let him do his job on television, the pre and the post game. And that's it. If he wants to manage, give him the respect like you did the other candidates. Stop teasing and say you want him to come back. It gets old. And like Jordan said, you ruined a couple of stars already that they were fan favorites as players, but once they got to higher management, coaching, or front office positions, the image was tarnished. Like he mentioned, talking about Jordan, like he mentioned last half hour, Robin Ventura. He didn't want the job. I said this years ago on the old Dean Davis show, and I'll say it here. 2012 was the best and worst thing that ever happened to Robin Ventura, because that team, I'll still say this, that 2012 team should have been in the playoffs. Yeah, Chris Sale and Jose Quintana, two strong-handed left-handers in the major leagues at the time. You couldn't get it done. Remember, Adam Dunn was finally starting to hit, but that batting average was crap. You still had a good enough offense to get you to the playoffs, but of course the Tigers came back and won the AL Central, and of course before they got swept by the San Francisco Giants in that World Series that year. And also too, this is also a Reinsdorf thing. Remember John Paxton Lakina? It actually made sense at the time with him replacing the late great Jerry Krause, because he was doing radio and television up until that point. Of course, you all remember what he did as a player under those early Bulls championship teams, but with his work recently until a few years ago in upper management, people were sick of him. So this is not just a White Sox thing; it's a Reinsdorf thing. You had to look at that Bull situation as well, as I just mentioned with John Paxson.
Wonder what Jermaine Dye is doing these days.
Oh no! Don't you put his name in that hat? Stop it!
Well, no, I'm not saying that, but you never know. But that's just crazy things going on. Let's get to it before both our heads explode. Dude, okay, another Olympic update for you now. Spoiler alert: if you don't want to know what happened in the men's gymnastics team final, cover your ears or put us on mute for the next 2 minutes. So we're going to recap it for you now. Congrats to the U.S. men. You can do it right now. All right. There you go. So congrats to the U.S. men's gymnastic team. They win bronze. Japan wins gold. China won silver. And the U.S. Wins bronze. Of course, the team made up of Deerfield's own Paul Judah, Asher Hong, Marie Malone, Stephen Nardrosic, and Frederick Richard. Your bronze medal winners, the first time that the U.S. men has medaled in the team final since 2008. So congrats to them. We'll see if Paul and Frederick, can make a little bit of headway in the all around. Of course, the team and the individual event finals as well. But congrats to them. Very well deserved. I know they've been working hard for this the last couple of years.
Yeah, we were talking about this as you were getting your technology situation before you went on live today. I was watching that event before we started broadcasting live today. those young men from the United States men's gymnastics team, they did a hell of a job. It was competitive all around. And whenever they needed to answer the bell, they answered the bell. And you mentioned Frederick Richard; he did a heck of a job today. The young man from Deerfield, outside Chicago, he did a heck of a job as well. So I know that it was some mixed, I'm not going to say mixed emotions, but mixed predictions whether this team was going to get a medal. I think we talked about in the last Olympics, so Lakina was like, when will the USA men's gymnastics team do something? It's been a long time since they made headway. We always talk about the women's gymnastics team, and rightfully so, because they've been consistent. But the men's gymnastics team, they had to do something. Well, they did it all right. A bronze medal. I know it's not a gold medal, but finished top 3 in the world. You have to be very proud of them.
Yeah, that's all I could ask for them, because it's been like 16 years, so you got to take baby steps. So those guys have done amazingly well. Let's see what happens when yeah, actually in on Wednesday for the all around. We'll see if Frederick and Paul can make a little headway here. Now you can unmute us, folks. Of course, we're gonna get to stuff that's already aired. Tori Huss, congrats to her. She just, if you remember 3 years ago, she just missed winning a medal in the 100-meter butterfly for the women last in Tokyo in the last Olympics. You know, she edged out Gretchen Walsh to win gold there. Of course, Walsh won silver. Really sweet moment. If you guys didn't get a chance to see it during the medal ceremony, she actually helped told Gretchen, she can stand the gold podium next to her, because Gretchen wasn't fair, because she's the reigning world record and Olympic record holder. So that was a really nice and classy move there. And of course, they already got silver winning in the 4x100-meter freestyle relay for the women. Of course, Australia as they did edge about Australia kind of dominated there. But on the flip side, though, the U.S. men led by Caleb Dressel, they did win. I think it's like the fourth time. I think they won gold in the men's 4x1 freestyle relay. Of course, more to come, as well as some more swimming finals going on as we speak. Kay Ledecky won bronze in the 400-meter freestyle. Excuse me, for the women. Nick Fink at 31, his first Olympics, but he gets a tie for a silver medal in a 100-meter breaststroke last night. U.S. also won in fencing. They won some medals there. They won a couple of golds there and a silver there as well. The two best friends won silver in the diving, synchronized diving platform. I don't know how the heck they do that, but congrats to them as well. So of course, just on the medal winners, of course, you can watch the primetime coverage and such. So it's all right there on the NBC Family Networks, and also streaming 24 hours a day on Peacock.
And speaking of the USA women's basketball team, they're about to tip it off against Japan right now. That's on USA. Their next game will be Thursday on Peacock, on Peacock and USA at 2:00 Chicago time. That's on Thursday. Then, of course, their next game after that will be next Sunday morning at 10:15 Central Standard Time in the morning on USA and Peacock. That's the women's national basketball national team. They're scheduled for this week. We talked about the men's USA men's action earlier, Lakina, from yesterday. Their next game will be on Wednesday. That's at 2:00 on Peacock and USA. But in USA, that's at 2:00 p.m. on Wednesday Central Standard Time. The USA men's basketball team. I wanted to talk to you about did you watch any of the other action in basketball, in men's basketball? Because I have a couple of observations.
I saw the Greece game against I think they were playing Japan, and I saw France.
They were playing Canada.
Yeah, the Canada, and I think I saw France play Victor Wembanyama. Looks really good. He's adjusting to the international rules pretty well. So nice mode. Also, to all France, want to give him a shout out for winning the team rugby, since rugby's been back as a sport. That's their first gold medal, and their first gold medal for of the Olympics.
Yeah, as I mentioned with men's basketball outside of the Team USA for the men, France beat Brazil on last Saturday, 78-66, and Team Canada beat Greece 86-79. I want to talk about that Canada game for a moment, Lakina. I did get a chance to catch some of the highlights. We talked about during the USA men's basketball exhibition basketball tour that that Canada team is stacked. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander of the Oklahoma City Thunder playing for Team Canada, he was a one-man show. I know Jamal Murray did his thing, but Shea Gilgeous-Alexander damn near put Team Canada on his back.
Yeah, he really does. I saw some of the highlights, and yeah, he really was dominant there, and they really need him because a lot of the other guys were struggling on that team. And if it's true that Canada's going to be the team that can give U.S. the run for their money, I think they really need to kind of get it going. And I think for a lot of those guys, it's like their first time in the Olympics, adjusting to the new rules. So that. But we'll see what happens. But yeah, I think they'll figure it out. But yeah, I mean, that was not a good showing by Canada initially.
Yeah, but like I said, they pulled it out at the end. Giannis, even though he had a great game for Greece, and no one on Greece decided to show up, but I digress. But Team Canada beat Greece last Saturday afternoon, 86-79. The France and Brazil game, I think you were referred to earlier. France did beat Brazil 78-66. Brazil came out hot early, but Team France pulled it out of the end. You mentioned Victor Wembanyama. He has some nice nifty moves, especially on the baseline there. It's like he deserved Rookie of the Year last year, but he wasn't doing all this with San Antonio. So if you're Greg Popovich, you're like, bring some of that over here for my team next year. You'll be having a new point guard named Chris Paul. And also, to Rudy Gobert contributed on both ends for Team France as well.
Yeah, I think he had like 6 or 7 blocks or something like that in that game against Brazil. So yeah, that'll be should be an interesting group there. Now, Canada, their next game will be tomorrow morning against Australia. France plays Japan. That's probably why I got mixed up for a second there. Brazil plays Germany, and Spain faces Greece tomorrow morning. So you stream those matches on those games on Peacock. So we'll be interested to see like how the rest of the world kind of shakes out there for the U.S. men in hoops.
Okay, a couple of one or two more things about the Olympics before we moved on. You mentioned about the viewership on this first day, I believe, after the opening ceremonies, the highest rated opening day of the Olympics in terms of TV ratings here in the United States since 2016. 32.4 million viewers watched the first full day of the Olympic Games last Saturday.
And 28 million, I believe, watched on Saturday. We'll see what the ratings are for last night. But I thought I was told there was going to be a boycott. I guess. I guess. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting though. But the rest of the rate, I think, because even though the time difference, because Paris is so magical. If you saw some of the beautiful backdrops, I mean, Chase Budinger. Chase Budinger and his partner Miles Evans, they won their first match and men's beach volleyball in front of the Eiffel Tower. Beautiful backdrop. There's some other gorgeous backdrops, and surfing. The rumor they're in Tahiti and French Polynesia for surfing.
Right.
So that backdrop, I think that's probably what's helping some of the race too. Maybe not just the sports itself, but the backdrops and the gorgeousness of France and the culture and everything. You get to see a little bit of Snoop Dogg too. Snoop Dogg's from everywhere these first couple of games. That NBC is going to be touting him to kind of get the younger viewership going. And that's probably one of the reasons why another reason why the viewership. He was hanging out with Jordan Childs and her family over at the gymnastics. You saw him also a couple of days before with Kayla Dressel's wife Megan, their little baby. They were high-fiving as Dressel led the U.S. to the gold there, the 4x1 men's relay. So yeah, I think all of that is kind of like a combination of why the race have been so good.
Yeah, I don't know if you caught this. I caught this morning on Instagram. Did you see Snoop trying to run the 200 meter in the track and field? But one thing to ask, I want to ask you about is the original broadcast was going on last Friday. As our girl, we were joined by our girl Christine, the Queen Manager for KXRB in South Dakota. I got a chance to watch some of the replay of the opening ceremonies. Of course, it was Hoda Kotb, but it was Mike Tirico, Peyton Manning, and Kelly Clarkson. I thought those three lovely, talented folks did a great job. What say you?
I thought they was really good. I mean, look, they all brought something different. Of course, Peyton brought the country aspect of it, and learning about the different countries. And this is actually one of those times when you usually see countries like, wait a minute, I didn't know that country existed. You got to literally look at it at a map. It would have been nice though if they had done what they did before, like, hey, this country is in this part of Asia or this part of Europe or in the Mediterranean. I mean, that was kind of the one thing that was missing. But they, him and Kelly Clarkson, of course, each brought something different to the table. and Kelly brought the more human side. Brady did too, but I think Kelly kind of brought the more human side. I think each of them did very well for what they were supposed to do. Of course, Mike Tirico is like his fourth Olympics, third or fourth Olympics in NBC, so that brings the experience of it and the pageantry and all of it. So learn about all the different the French culture, and so they all kind of like mesh together well. And burlesque, folks. I mean, this is what happens back in the day in France. Read a book, folks. Reading is fundamental. Just saying. But
Yes.
yeah, I thought it was a good broadcast. Although it would have been a little bit better with the countries and the Google Maps and stuff. But that's probably the one critique I would have. But yeah, it was a great broadcast, though, I think.
Yeah, for those of you younger viewers that are watching the program, learn your geography, folks. Learn your geography, especially in this technology age that we live in. There's no excuse not to learn. We all should learn. I don't care how old you are. Lakina, I'm sure some people were saying this on social media over the weekend. I know Peyton Manning is doing his Monday Night Football film room, as we call it, Manning cast with his brother Eli. I know Bill Belichick is going to join them at some points for this upcoming season. But do you think that Peyton Manning will ever get into studio or actually do games like Tom Brady's going to do this year? I'm sure some people probably put that out there in the social media universe last weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I think if he wanted to do that, I think he would have done it already. And I think he kind of like the way it sets up for him. He and Eli can be a little bit more casual and a little bit more. He doesn't have to be constricted with their analysis. It can be a little bit more free flowing. So I think that's why he kind of likes the stuff he has with Eli. And I think he wants to be either GM or perhaps even the commissioner one day. We saw it during his Hall of Fame speech. So I think that's probably kind of like his audition, I guess, to be the next commissioner of the NFL.
And also, too, if you remember the story, when Fox had the Thursday night package a few years ago, it seemed like 20 years ago, but when they had the Thursday night football package, they did ask Peyton Manning to be part of that broadcast, and he said, "I'm not going to do any New York Giants games because Eli was playing at the time." They tried to move those games, but the league wouldn't let them. So, and that didn't come to pass. So, like I'm with you, he would have Peyton. I'm referring to he would have done it already. Not to say that he still can't change his mind, but like you said, the setup that he has with Eli and Bill Belichick at ESPN too, obviously he's not going to stop that anytime soon because some of those broadcasts get higher ratings than the actual broadcasts on ESPN for Monday Night Football.
And it's not like he's old. I mean, he's only only like his late 40s, so he's still old. He's still young enough to still want to do. He's only about a couple of years older than Tom Brady. So yeah, I mean, I think he'll do I think he might do it later on. And plus, his kids are still very young. If you saw him, he and his kids, and I think his wife was there too. Were hanging out with the men's basketball team before their game against Serbia over the weekend. So yeah, I think he's just having fun and enjoying the time with his family and doing the different things for all. It can be a little bit more not freelance necessarily, but you can do all with different networks too, like on NBC and such. So I think that's probably why he kind of likes the way how it's set up for him. So I think that's probably why he likes the way he's using it right now.
You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago as we head down the home stretch of our last Monday broadcast for the month of July. I'm Sid. That's Lakina. Lakina, as you teased at the top of the show, the NFL never seems to amaze us as training camps are underway across the league. But there were two big signings over the weekend. Tell us about it.
Yeah, one was this past Saturday. It kind of dropped out of nowhere in the middle of all the Olympic coverage. Jordan Love gets his money, $220 million for 4 years and 175. I think it was 172, 75, somewhere around there, give or take, guaranteed. Guaranteed. 172, 175 million guaranteed money. Look, you know what? Count money. Count your money, Jordan Love. I mean,
yeah,
we'll see if he's worth that money. But I know some people were wondering that might be a little bit much. But we'll see. What do you think?
I know he just got engaged recently as well, so congratulations to him on that. But as we talked about last year, Lakina, Jordan Love, outside that opening game against the Bears last year, yeah, he kind of struggled because due to timing issues and just getting used to new teammates and whatnot. But after the month of November, he turned it on to perform like a top 5 quarterback in the National Football League. You saw what he did in the playoffs at Dallas, even though he was benefited by a strong running game with Aaron Jones, now a member of the Minnesota Vikings, of course. They came one or two big plays away from reaching the NFC Championship game. Of course, they lost to the 49ers on the road. But Jordan Love, from the last 2 months of the regular season, he was one of the best top five quarterbacks in the league. So he deserved his money. And of course, Green Bay is setting themselves up not only for the present but for the future as well.
$75 million signing bonus as well. So, Jordan, you seem like a smart
you
kid.
go.
Get a prenup, dude. That's all I'm gonna leave it there. Hey, look. If she's genuine, she wouldn't have a problem signing it. So, I'm sure he's got people around him that'll make sure. I know his mother and brother are gonna make sure that he still does well for himself there. Doesn't get too bobbled there, but Mr. Tua's contract, Mr. Tua Tagovailoa from the Dolphins, he gets a 4-year, 212, which is a little over 212 million, about 60 million, 65 million guaranteed. So sick. I mean, this is like the big question going into this season. Were the Dolphins gonna re-sign him? What do you think? To extend him, I should say. So, what do you think?
Well, it's a good move by excuse me. It was a good move by Miami by extending him for the next 4 years. Him and Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are the best wide receiver combo with the Tua in the National Football League. You saw that last year where all three of them were healthy. And with Tua, his health is always going to be in question. Of course, last year he played the majority of the snaps. You saw what he could do as the Dolphins went back to the playoffs before getting ice cold by the Kansas City Chiefs on the road there. But when Tua's healthy, he's a top 10 quarterback in the league. We all know about his mobile ability, but his arm strength is very underrated. But once he gets going with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and Ignite, of course, they have Devin A-Chain coming back as your second-year running back. That Miami Dolphins offense is dynamic. We saw it last year when all those guys were healthy at once.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah, that's really. We'll see we'll see if how Miami does. Now you can probably say wide open AFC East. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there with that new fresh paper that he got. Hopefully he can prove that he's worthy of that. Now, another big signing, I know it's pretty minuscule considering the bigger numbers for the first two guys that we talked about, but the Lions did sign offensive tackle Taylor Decker. Went to the Pro Bowl a couple of times to a 3-year, $60 million deal with just under $32 million guaranteed. And so looks like the Lions are investing in their offense. And they've got a little bit of a window here.
Yeah, the Lions are one of those teams that are expected to take a big jump. I'm not going to give my total prediction on the Lions there. I like what they're doing, and they are taking the next step. They're not sitting on their morals like other teams do. But you figure that they'll take a small step back only because of they have a tougher schedule this year. You went from worst to first last year. Now people are coming for you, so it looks like at least on paper they're prepared for that. Hopefully they're mentally prepared for that.
We'll see if they can do that. That's going to be interesting. There now. Any other NFL news that got you going here before we go to Old School TV Monday, real quick?
I didn't get a chance to check out the first episode. I'll check it out tomorrow. But the new version of Good Morning Football debuted today from Los Angeles.
I watched a little bit of it. I didn't see the whole thing, but I did watch a little bit of it. It looks good. It kind of seems like the same Good Morning Football, but a little bit more of an LA twist. So so far so good. It looks like.
I heard Michael Buffer, the ring announcer, got upstaged by Kyle Brandt, Chicago's very own, by the way, in from Real World Chicago.
Yes, and I guess he almost stripped, but he didn't. Well, he was on a soap for a couple of years after all.
Yeah.
But it sounded good. I think we'll see if but yeah, it seems so far so good. Like the definitely a different feel with now it being in Los Angeles, but it looks good. They all sound really good too.
All right. Anything else before we close it out with Old School TV Monday?
No, I'm good. Let's get to it.
All right, this is our last segment of the program. Each and every Monday, we like to end it on a high note. And this week is no different. I think this is an obvious one, Lakina. It just popped in my brain yesterday, and I said, let me salute this show. And for those of you that are our age or older, you know. If you know, you know. If you don't, here's a history lesson for you. Today for Old School TV Monday, we will salute ABC's Wild World of Sports. That's right. It was an It was an American sports anthology television program that aired on ABC from 1961 until 1997, primarily on Saturday afternoons. It was hosted by Jim McKay with a succession of co-hosts beginning in 1987. The title continued to be used for general sports programs on the network until 2006. In 2007, Wild World of Sports was named by Time magazine on its list for the 100 best television programs of all time. Weekend sports news updates on sister station radio network ABC Sports Radio, operated by Cumulus Media Networks, continue to be branded under the similar title ABC's Wild World of Sports. The program also lent its name to an athletic facility at Walt Disney World, the ESPN Wild World of Sports Complex, which originally was known as Disney's Wild World of Sports Complex from its opening in 1997 until 2010. In the origins of the program, it was the creation of Ed Sherrick through his company Sports Programs Inc. After selling his company to ABC, he hired a young Rune Aldrich to produce the show. Aldrich, thank you, to produce the show. The series premiered on April 29th, 1961. It debuted both the Penn and Drake relays, Jim McKay and J.C. Amberson, the track and field writer for the New York Herald Tribune, broadcasted from Franklin Field with Bob Richards as the field reporter. Jim Simpson called the action from Drake Stadium with Bill Fleming working the field. During its initial season in the spring and summer of 1961, Wild World of Sports was initially broadcasted from 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern Time on Saturdays. Beginning in 1962, it was pushed to 5 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and later from 3:30 to 5 p.m. Central Standard Time, to allow ABC affiliates in the Eastern and Central time zones to carry local programming in the early evening hours.
I think one of the first, it was kind of the first time when, if you guys remember the old, well, not old because it's still around, the X Games, it's kind of like what started here. You had barrel jumping, frisbee, and there's actually a good spot for like non-Olympic events in the non-Olympic years, like track, as you said, with the pin relays and the U.S. championships in track, swimming, figure skating, gymnastics. How fitting with the Olympics going on right now, and then such, equestrian and everything else. And the opening with the music kind of like just grabbed your attention with Jim McKay, God rest his soul, his voice, the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. I think the guy that was, and I think the guy that I think passed away some years back, the guy that, and I know he had to live that down for so many years. He kind of embraced it eventually, but the guy that fell into with ski jumping competition. But yeah, it was a great way to kind of like showcase fringe sports, Olympic sports and non-Olympic years and everything else. So that kind of sort of paved the way. Now, of course, this was before ESPN. This was before, all the other networks. Fox Sports wasn't really a thing back then. But so yeah, this was kind of like the shot to kind of like see it. After bowling, of course, during the springtime, especially, was Wild World of Sports and and this and that. So that kind of helped sort of get these know about these athletes on the map, like Pele. Kyler Rowe Jr., senior, I should say, for soccer, and that kind of helped start pave the way for that sport. So I think Wide World Sports opened the door to a lot of things for a lot of athletes. Of course, boxing as well, with Muhammad Ali, then Cassius Clay at the time during those early years. So yeah, I think it kind of paved the way for a lot of athletes and a lot of things, on Wide World.
In other events that was highlighted on that program throughout the years, Wimbledon, the Indianapolis 500, the NCAA Men's Basketball Championship before it became popular like it is now, the Daytona 500, the U.S. Figure Skating Championships, the first color broadcast of the Monaco Grand Prix in 1967 for all you racing fans out there, the Little League World Series, the British Open Golf Tournament, and you mentioned the X Games in 1995 and the Grey Cup. And one more note, Lakina, some of the famous co-hosts that hosted with the late great Jim McKay over the years: Becky Dixon, the late great Frank Gifford, Julie Moran after Inside Stuff she did for this season, and of course the great Robin Roberts, now the lead anchor of Good Morning America.
I believe Donna DeVerona, who of course sister, who her sister is, Joanna Kearns from Growing Pains. We'll salute that show. She was one of the hosts as well. I know Keith Jackson did it for a little bit. One of the first things I believe Al Michaels, when he first got to ABC, I think one of the first sports he did for Wild World was the Frisbee champion. Oh no, I think it was the diving, the cliff diving championships. I think it was one of those sports that back in 1977 when he joined ABC from CBS. So yeah, you could definitely a before there were stars moment there.
Yeah. And some of the great names that broadcasted on that program throughout the years: Bill Russell, Cheryl Miller, Mickey Mantle, Ned Jarrett, Phil Hill. Also, too, you had Jerry Punch, O.J. Simpson, may his soul rest in peace, Lynn Swan, Al Troutway, doing great work at MSG in New York, Leslie Visser, and of course, you mentioned Keith Jackson. The late great John Saunders worked on that program, Bud Palmer, Brent Musburger, Jim Lampley, and the late great Kurt Gowdy. And I remember this name, Lakina, you probably remember this more than I do, Terry Gannon.
One of the first things, I think it was the Harlem Globetrotters, I think. Remember, I think that was the first thing he did when he got into broadcasting, of course. He was part of the 83 men's national championship team for North Carolina State. Of course, he has now had a successful career. Then as a color analyst, but now as a broadcaster, of course, you can listen to him doing gymnastics for NBC these next couple of weeks.
Yeah. So for Old School TV Monday, we salute ABC's Wild World of Sports. Lakina, take us home.
Good times, good times. Today's kids, much like Saturday morning cartoons, today's kids will never know the greatness of Wild World Sports. But
right. No, I think there's some clips and some episodes on YouTube as well.
Yeah, there's some full episodes on YouTube as well, so you guys can check it out as well. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your younger siblings, younger cousins, nieces, nephews, what have you. With that said, you can follow me at Keita McGee on the Twitter, X, and Q's Cookie, and the IG.
You can follow your Shirley Sydney Brown on the Twitter, X, and the IG as SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80. Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. Please subscribe to our podcast. We are located at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're ready, please give War Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in living color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more again, as the kids would say. Catch Second City Sports live in living color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
And once again, we'd like to thank our buddy, Mr. Jordan Lazowski from Sox on 35th for his great insight and for breaking the news about the trade involving the White Sox, the Dodgers, and the Cardinals. I'm sure there's going to be more trades coming up these next couple of days, and we'll talk about it on Friday.
Yes, and don't forget you can catch Sports Zone Chicago's programming live in 11 color, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year on Roku TV.
And we will provide.
That's right.
And if you're keep watching the Olympics, folks. The races have been very good, so you can actually catch us right now. Catch the women, U.S. Women playing basketball right after us. So enjoy all the Olympics and the baseball and so much more. For Sid, I'm Lakina. This is Second City Sports on Sports of Chicago, and we'll see you guys Friday.
USA, holla!